Welcome back to Conversation with Buddy. I'm your host, Buddy Puckett. We really appreciate you being here each week and listening to stories of our local people. And this morning we have a local guy. He did move away, but he came back last night to do a book launch. He wrote a book, so we're going to dive deep into that. And we're going to talk about leadership. And so, question for you, what is leadership to you? That's my question. There's a quote, I hope I get this right. It says, leaders are readers, but not all readers are leaders. And the question is, do you agree with that? Do you think that's incorrect? So we're going to dive deep into leadership. We're going to dive deep into transformation. So without further ado, let me introduce my new friend, Chris Pineda. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
How did I do on the last name? Do I do it kind of right?
It's good enough.
Good enough.
I got Pineda growing up, so.
Chris Pineda is really.
Pineda,
Yep, that's
perfect.
Cool. Well, brother, thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm
The
happy
book
to be
launch
here.
last night was fantastic. A great turnout. It's funny. So this guy, Jared Virtue, introduced you and I over phone a month ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you're coming into town. I'm at the gym yesterday morning, and I see this guy that I haven't seen before at the gym, and he looks like Chris Pineda. And I come over to you, hey, what's your name?
Yeah.
And you said, Chris Pineda. So anyway, I thought that was funny.
Yeah, it's crazy that we've never met. I lived here for 10 years, and I was all over the community, so it was kind of crazy that we haven't. Yeah. Maybe in passing we've met.
I don't know how that is, but
Yeah.
it's funny. Salem it's a big city, and yet it's small. And so, but it depends on the circle you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably wasn't yet qualified to be in your circle, but
Neither was I. That's part of my story. I wasn't qualified to be in my circle.
I think it was maybe coming up on year 11. Scott Weigel came in and goes, hey, there's this thing called groundwork. You're like, yeah, tell me more. Larry Tokarski, this guy, I didn't know who you were, so I wouldn't have remembered your name. But, talking about this event, and so you guys actually stopped after that year, though, right? You guys didn't continue.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, 2023 was our last year of running a cohort here. Yeah.
Okay.
We did more. We started doing more in some other states, but that was when we stopped. Yeah.
Gotcha. So what I do, Chris, is I dive in pretty deep. I want to know who Chris really is.
Sure.
We're going to take you back to the very beginning, but before we do, although I know the answer because you already told me, Jared Virtue's question, because Jared introduced us, so I want to honor Jared. So Jared, this is for you. Question, what is leadership to you?
Yeah. Leadership is it's a very simple yet complicated idea, and it means nothing unless you go and do it, right? Anybody can talk about leadership. We can say all the right things. We can say all the nice mottos and quotes, but very few people really live it. And leadership has always changed too, because leadership is influence, and leadership is in response to the needs of people around us. And so it changes, hundreds, thousands of years ago, leadership was the strong man theory, which was if you're the strongest, fastest person in the village, you are going to lead everybody, and people are going to follow you because you can protect them, right? And safety and survival were the main primary needs. Now I am grossly over exaggerating history here, so nobody get mad at me. I'm just abbreviating things.
Yeah.
But that's essentially right. People were leading because of those reasons. And then we had industrial revolution and these booms in industry. So now all of a sudden the most industrious, almost smartest people in the room were the ones leading, right? The ones that had power, and obviously the ones that were born into power, things like that. But they were leading an industry. They were the leaders, right? And then we get into the modern era, there's innovation, technology changes, and it's really the most innovative and intellectual, smartest people in the room leading. Well, we're in a time now, I think, where machines can do all of those things. Machines are bigger, faster, and stronger than us. They're smarter than us. They're more industrious than us. AI is more innovative than us. All of these things are faster and quicker than most human beings. And so the only thing that is going to define leadership, in my opinion, is people that can connect with others. And that's now going to launch us, I think, into the future. That's always been important, but now all these other things are automated. But one thing that AI and technology can't do for us is connect at human to human at a very deep level. And I think that that's a big part of what leadership is now. Can I connect with people and inspire them and set vision and purpose for people and have them willingly follow me towards something together collectively, and then work effectively with one another in order to get there? That, to me, that's what a great leader is.
Yeah.
You can make great people that are awesome individual contributors and have great insight, but if they can't get a group of people to follow and believe in something, then that's a reflection of their leadership. So we're constantly carrying around a mirror, and how people respond to us is a reflection of our leadership.
Yeah, I think the question is, if you think you're a leader, is there any people following you? If there's nobody following you, does that make you a leader, right?
And not compliance, right?
Exactly.
So us in organizations, just because people are complying doesn't mean that they're really following you. They're just complying because it's their job.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference, and we feel it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think employees, they can be out of fear doing what they're told to do, and it looks like that's leadership and they're following, but they're only doing it out of probably a fear-based, not a love-based leadership. So, well, Chris, I know we're gonna dive into the book. I want to hear more about that, but I want to take you to the very beginning.
Yeah.
Where were you born? What was upbringing like? How many siblings you got? Unpack it all.
Sure. Yeah. No, I was born into a Filipino-American household, we'll say, and that's a big part of my culture and part of who I am, and I'm very proud of it. And I'm obviously proud of where my mother comes from and all of her ancestry, but we were sort of an odd one out where I grew up. I grew up in Utah, and I was born in Bountiful, Utah.
Okay.
And I'm the youngest of 5.
Wow. Okay.
So my parents met in Hawaii back in the late 70s, early 80s. That was really the only place that a Filipino guy that's how a lot of Filipinos actually came to the U.S. They'd kind of come through Hawaii, and that was the only place that my parents would ever have met was there. So that's where they started the family. My 2 oldest siblings were born there, and then my other 2, they moved around, and finally they settled kind of in Utah, and that's when I was born. I'm the youngest of 5. So my older siblings, a couple of them are already grandparents.
Wow.
Yeah, my parents are great-grandparents now, and they actually live in the Philippines right now.
Okay.
My siblings are kind of all over, a couple in Texas, Utah. We used to obviously live up here for a long time, so it's nice to be back with family. But upbringing for me, was probably similar to a lot of people. I was fortunate to have 2 parents in my house, and that loved each other and loved us, and they were hard workers. We didn't have a whole lot, my dad. When I was born, my dad was assistant manager at a Payless in the back of Kmart.
Okay. And
he's always been in retail. So we lived a pretty frugal life, and I'm grateful for that. Taught me a lot in a little house. And we always had what we needed, but we always also knew that money was was an issue. So paycheck to paycheck every month, paying for our own stuff as soon as we were old enough. But again, great life. My parents provided a great life for us. So I'm the youngest, like I said, and that's a for any youngest, I'll say that's a burden to carry. You're kind of you're always the little brother or little sister, right?
You might be bigger, tougher, stronger.
People don't take you seriously.
Your little brother. They're like, yeah, whatever. Okay, that's funny.
Exactly. They don't take you seriously. You're just kind of the little goofball that is annoying. And so that was my identity growing up. Obviously, I'm an adult now, but that's probably how my siblings still see me.
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And they're going to remind you of all the things you did as a kid,
Yep, they never let me forget.
Are your mom and dad still alive?
Yep. Yeah, they live in the Philippines.
They live in the Philippines. And what's the age difference between you and your next sibling?
We're all about 2-3 years apart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it boys, girls? What's the?
Yeah. So it's girl, boy, girl, boy. Yeah.
Okay. So 2 boys.
Everybody's
4 girls.
married. 20. Oh gosh, I don't know how many grandkids now. My parents have 20, 21, and then 1 great grandchild, and then my niece she's due with her first in I think June. So they'll have 2 great
Crazy.
grandkids. Yeah.
Crazy. So it sounds like your mom and dad loved you, taught you some good work ethic. You lived frugally. What's another lesson that maybe you learned from mom and dad that you contribute who you are today?
Yeah, well, because they were from completely different sides of the world, they had to agree early in their marriage that, obviously they loved sharing each other's culture with one another, but they had to agree that the thing that they were going to ground their relationship on and raising their kids was their faith in God and Christ. And so that was central to them, to us. So that was the focal point of our upbringing. Yeah. And truthfully, when you have somebody that's from a third world country that grew up very different, and then somebody that's born and raised in the United States, especially back in that time, it was not common for them to come together and get married was kind of against the grain. Obviously, you see a lot of interracial marriages now, but back then it was not common. And so for them to do that, not only that's mixed race, but it was mixed culture. I mean, we're talking completely different cultures. So they've done an amazing job in helping us, in raising us, and respecting both sides of our lineage. And I'm grateful for everything my dad taught me about the Filipino side. That was always more intriguing to me for several reasons. One was it was different from where I was raised. Had I maybe been raised in the Philippines, maybe my mom's side would have been more intriguing to me because it was the different thing, right? Right. So there's a natural draw there. But then as I got older, I actually felt really connected to that side of it. I was so drawn towards any island culture, and I just wanted to engulf myself in it. And then as I become an adult, I really took it upon myself to start studying it and learning more about it, and trying my best to understand my genealogy and connect with my ancestors. And now it's a big part of who I am, my identity. It's all over in the book. It's how I present and speak, as you heard me last night. I love the integration between indigenous wisdom and modern leadership. I feel like there's so much to learn there. Yeah. So that's probably the most unique thing about my upbringing, and one of the things I'm most grateful for sure.
Where'd you go to high school at?
I went to American Fork High School in Utah.
Oh, Utah. Okay.
Yeah, it's about 30-ish minutes south of Salt Lake.
Sports, music. What'd you do for?
I wish I was musical.
Me too.
I'm not. I like to fiddle on different instruments. I don't know chords, don't know keys, but I'll go and bang around on a piano and make something sound all right.
Okay.
No means expert. And same thing with like the ukulele or the guitar. Yeah. But I'm not musical. I can't carry a note. My wife is amazing though. She's a great singer.
I'm jealous.
And sports, though, was a big part of my life. I mean, that was the other main part of my identity. So played a lot of different sports, but soccer was kind of the thing I gravitated to the most. And played all throughout high school, played club, played for, an academy team for Real Salt Lake, played in college out in Hawaii. And had opportunities to actually go and play professionally in Philippines. Wow. But we didn't. We felt called to do something else. That was a hard decision back at that time, but I'm glad we didn't end up doing that. Yeah. But that was a big part of my life for sure. Right.
Did you go to BYU in Hawaii?
Yeah, BYU Hawaii.
BYU. Okay. Who brought the faith? I know you guys were LDS. Mom or dad, or were they already?
Both, yeah, both. Yeah, my mom, multiple generations. Yeah. In this, in our faith, and my dad converted in his family in the Philippines. Yeah. They're actually some of the first 100 members of the LDS Church in the Philippines. Yeah. They were Catholic before.
Okay. So they were Catholic and then converted to Mormon. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Gotcha. When did your faith become your own?
When I was a young adult, probably right around 18-ish years old, it started to mean more to me. Yeah. And I stopped kind of just going off of what I was taught to believe and what my parents, had tried to instill in me. And I kind of had to have my own self-discovery, right? And ask my own questions, like, are these things that I believe true or not? You know, and I had to have my own sort of journey, coming to Jesus moment.
Come to Jesus.
And, testimony building moments. And I'm grateful for those. And I've tried to be intentional about maintaining my faith ever since. Right. And I think that's just an important principle. Anybody that has faith in religious faith and whatever they believe in, it's a choice that we make every day. We have to believe in it, choose to believe in it. And I continue to choose to believe today.
Yeah.
So,
It's cool. So after high school, where did the journey go until you got married to your wife? What's that look like?
Yeah, so I played soccer in Hawaii for a semester, and then I actually served a mission for my church. So you've probably seen LDS missionaries walking around with a name tag. Be nice to them. I used to be one.
Okay. I'm very nice to them.
And so, I served a mission in South Carolina.
Okay.
So I lived in the South for a little while.
Yeah.
I was a Spanish-speaking missionary.
So
I speak fluent.
Okay.
I spoke fluently. And in Spanish, you say, hablo perfecto, like I was speaking perfect Spanish at one point. My accent was on point, everything. Not anymore. I'm not fluent, nor do I speak perfect, but I can still carry a conversation. Yeah. And so I loved learning another language. That was fun. And those were 2 formative years of my life for sure.
Because you're what, early 20s, you said?
Yeah, I was 19.
19,
when I left,
okay, yeah. Seems like when you go on the mission as a LDS, it is those right after high school, really, almost, isn't it? Okay.
So formative years, and grateful for that experience for sure. Still, I am today based on things I learned from those 2 years. And then after that, I went back to school and, met my wife and got married, and she played soccer out there as well.
Oh, she's a soccer player too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the rest is history.
So you've been married for how long now?
14 years, coming on 14 years.
Okay. How many kids?
3.
3.
Yeah.
Eva?
Tell
me the other 2.
Eva, Mateo, and Tala.
Okay.
Yeah, 11, 8. Nope, he's 9 now. 11, 9, and 6 in a couple weeks.
Okay. Okay. Eva's the only one I've heard about in your book, and just I'm a girl dad. My wife and I have 2 daughters, and so I could relate. To just your stories. Give me one of the stories about Eva, those early stories, just maybe a little glimpse of the chapter, maybe some of those aha moments where God's working on you to change, to transform. I'm pretty sure that's what's going on here.
Yeah.
What do you think? Tell us about that.
Yeah. In the first 2 chapters, I'm contrasting the handshake with the breath of life. And, you have to read the book to really get more context there, but I'm basically contrasting transaction with transformation. And we can go through transactions in life where we're shaking hands with people literally, but also metaphorically. And even our jobs, our faith. Some people are shaking hands with their faith. They just go to church.
Yeah,
they say a prayer every morning. They don't really mean it. It's just a transaction. Boom, 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 boom. Versus things that are more transformational, where you're leading with purpose. You're more intentional. You care about everything that you're doing. And we kind of fluctuate in between these moments of transaction and transformation. So the book is really
not
about...
me, man, just other people.
Yeah, not us, of course.
It didn't really, I'm lying, of course, but...
Yeah, and so the book's really about how do you consistently live a transformational life in your life and your leadership, right? And so that's what the book's about. So I contrast at a really fundamental level these stories about my early fatherhood with Eva, where I had these sort of awakenings to how transactional I was, even in the most intimate relationships that we have, which is with our spouses, our kids, family members. And because people would often say, oh, well, I might be transactional at work, but not at home. Or, I love my family more than anything. Yeah. We say that, but our actions sometimes prove otherwise. And love is, I think there are forms of unconditional love, sure, like mentally, but intentionally, love is a choice that we deploy moment to moment. And if I really love you, I'm going to act on that love. It's not just something I withhold for myself. In fact, I love the word for I love you in Tagalog in the Philippines. It's mahal kita. And that's how you say I love you. And in English, I'm saying, so if I'm telling you, buddy, I'm saying I love you. So I'm basically saying I have love for you. Mahal kita there's no I love you in it. It's actually the love that we share. So they don't have a way of saying I love you. When they say I love you, they're actually saying, translated to English, we share love together, because it's so collective and it's so intentional, right? But again, in English, we're so individualistic. We think that I love you, right? But love is so much more than that. So, and we only have one word for it in the English language to describe it. Right. There's puppy love, there's friendship love, there's love for donuts, there's love for hobbies. Yeah. But what we're talking about here is this fundamental love for humanity, right? For others beyond ourselves, right? And it's the sort of love that, like, you know, the Savior talks about in the scriptures of, I would lay down my life for my neighbor, right? Yeah. That's love. Like, love causes us to do something beyond ourselves. And when you think about it that way, gosh, that's hard to live every day because we're focused on ourselves.
Me, myself, and I.
Yeah, and we have moments where we realize it, and if we don't stay consistent with those moments and try to be something different after them, then we kind of fall back into transaction. So when I was an early dad, and my daughter Eva, she's almost 2 years old at the time, and we're in thick of sleep training. Like, Eva, you need to learn how to go to bed by yourself. She actually loved the bedtime routine. She just didn't like going to bed. She wanted you to stay next to her by her little toddler bed for almost 2 hours till she drifted off into sleep. It was torture. And so we were in that moment of trying to get her to go to sleep. She's our first, so, you know, inexperienced parents. And we got to, and I was in grad school at the time getting my master's. So Kenzie was usually taking this job, you know, fortunately for me. But eventually, you know, she became pregnant with Mateo, and she was just not, you know, feeling great in the evenings and long days. So I was like, I'll step up and I'll do this. Yeah. And I remember thinking, like, I'm going to figure this out. Like, I'm going to be super dad, and I'm going to be able to go into Kenzie and say, look what I did. I figured out how to get Eva to sleep. See how it's still focused on me this whole time, right? And the recognition I would get of being able to pat myself on the back saying I'm a good dad, which behaviorally, so think about this for a second, buddy. Yeah. On the surface, what a noble thing. Yeah. He's helping his daughter go to sleep. He's giving his wife a break. But beneath the surface, what am I focused on? Me. Oh my gosh, yeah. Just recognition, even my own gratification of saying, you're a good dad, Chris. Yeah. Right? I need that, you know? And we're not alive to this very often, right? But I'm only alive to it now because I can look back. But in the moment, I was not thinking this until this moment I had with my daughter. So we're in the middle of sleep training, and I take over this responsibility, and I'm calling all my siblings. Like I told you, I'm the youngest. I'm calling my parents, like figuring out ways, like what works, you know? And I even went as far to, after work one day, I went to the library to look for books on how to like sleep train a child, watching YouTube videos and everything. And I come up with this plan. I devise a plan, and I went to the dollar store, bought some props, you know, and I'm like trying to make this a fun experience for Eva. So I spend a couple of days like trying to teach her about, you know, I'm just being overly creative, thinking about how this is why it's so important to go to sleep at this time, Eva. And none of it works. It kind of actually blows up in my face. A couple of days go by, I get frustrated that whatever, I'm just going back to what I was doing before. So I give up so quickly, you know, and I resort to just getting her through bedtime routine and then sitting by the bedside till she falls asleep, because it's the easy thing. So one night she's in the bath, and I'm sitting on this little stool catching up on some reading, and she's splashing. Multitasking. Yeah, she's splashing on me, and I'm getting frustrated, like she's getting my books wet, but I see that she's just having fun, and I can tell she wants to play with me. So I just sit my book down, and I play I play with her in the tub, and we end up having a fun time, and get her out, dry her off, lotion, jammies, all those things. And she's standing on the tool brushing her teeth, you know, sucking all the toothpaste out, and I'm brushing her hair, and I'm just enjoying this moment with my daughter. I'm like, this feels so good to be. This is why I love being a dad. You know, this is why these moments where I want to be a dad. And then I quickly, that thought gets overpowered by the dread of, crap, now we have to go in there and I'm going to be sitting on the floor for 2 hours till she falls asleep. Right. So I'm frustrated by that, but I'm thinking like, there's got to be something more to this. And it was the first time that I was sort of open to what does she want? Which is kind of silly,
Yeah.
I think she wants to go to bed or she just wants to play, but I never asked her. So I'm like,
you want her to go to bed because you have stuff to do.
yes, I had homework to do. I had all these
focused
things.
on me.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I'm like, well, let me just ask her what she wants. So I asked her a question while I'm brushing her hair. I say, Eva, what do you need from daddy so you can go night-night? And clear as day, she turns to me with big eyes and she puts up 2 fingers like this. She's like, Daddy, I want you to read me 2 books and pat me 2 minutes. And like pat her back for 2 minutes. So I'm like, okay, I can do that. So we go say goodnight to mommy. I get her in her bed. I pick like the shortest books I can find. I read these 2 books and I do them in silly voices. We have a fun time doing it. And then when I'm done, 3 minutes later, reading books for just a couple minutes, she turns on her stomach, says, okay, pat me 2 minutes. And I pat her back and I kind of fizzle off. And then I don't even take 2 minutes. And I'm like, okay, daddy's going to leave now. Good night. And she turns to me and puckers her lips, so she can give a big kiss. And she's never done this before. And I get up and I'm backing away like a bomb's about to go off, because usually if you get up, she's going to freak out. And so I'm backing away, turn off the lights, crack the door, say goodnight one more time. She says goodnight. And I'm in disbelief that this is happening. And, I walk past my wife's, our room, and she's like, what happened? She's already asleep. And I'm like, it worked. Something worked. I don't know what it is, but it worked, And I go do homework. I check on her a couple of times and she's still awake. Finally, she's asleep, after like the 3rd time checking on her. And it hit me that night that my daughter, as I sat and reflected on what just happened, I'm like, that went way different than anything before. I realized that, I've been shaking hands with my daughter, that she was in the way of me doing what I wanted to do. And I was quickly trying to create transactional moments to get her to comply so I could do what I wanted to do. And it hit me that this connection that I say and claim that I have with my daughter, that I love her and that she means the world to me, that I was treating it like a transaction. I was treating it like compliance. And that really crushed me, but also awakened me. And so I started to be more intentional every bedtime. And it wasn't always 2 books and pat my back for 2 minutes. Sometimes it was singing songs or playing a quick game or doing whatever.
But you asked her the question, hey, what do you want today? It was something different.
I made it about her. I made it about, not just making it about her, I made it about our relationship. And I was never making it about my relationship. And she had no issues after that. Maybe, a couple times here and there, nobody's perfect, but I look back and now what used to be the dreaded part of my day became one of my most favorite times of the day to spend with my daughter. And experienced parents maybe that have figured this out are maybe laughing like, well, duh, dude. But for me, I was like, I'm missing moments that can be part of my journey of becoming a better dad and my own journey of transformation. And I was treating them transactionally. And what a waste. So those became treasured moments.
Yeah. Well, I can definitely relate, my oldest daughter too. I very transactional, want to put her to bed and I'm not tired, I'm like, you're going to sleep, but there's a thing, love, from a worldly standpoint is you feel good. Oh, it's warm and fuzzy puppy love, I think he said. From a biblical standpoint, it's agape love. Agape love is unconditional. It's from God. And love is not a noun, it's a verb, it's an action. But I think to your point is we're focused on self way too much. And the quick answer is you might want to focus on her to just fix her problem. Like, we're guys, right? If your wife has a problem, I've got this, let me fix it. Well, how does that work? Well, it usually doesn't. But listening, asking the question, what is it you need from dad? You just gave her, you were working on your guys' relationship. You were listening to what she was saying and just doing that. And you're building that relationship. I think it's beautiful. Yeah, I wish I'd learned some of those lessons early on too. It took a little while. And eventually it gets better and better. We can look back and we can laugh a little bit now. We have adult daughters now. And so, but our relationship is really good.
Yeah.
And I think yours is as well. That's what it sounds like.
Well, yeah, it is. It's amazing. And obviously I'm not perfect. My kids aren't perfect, but you brought up a good point. When you say unconditional love and agape love, the interesting thing is that we subconsciously create conditions where our love adheres to, right? Like, I love you so long as you don't make my life difficult, you comply, here, so on and so forth. And those conditions can quickly become transactional if we're not intentional about them. And that's why I actually call the 7 conditions, because they're the conditions that you can create in your own life that help you stay on this journey of transformation. Otherwise, we become subject to the transactions of life. They create our conditions, and we're living a life in response to things around us, which is mostly transactional.
Yeah.
So if we can create pillars in our life that remind us of what it means to live a transformational life. And for listeners, transformation is the process of becoming. It's fundamental shifts in how we see, think, and behave towards our positive potential. To me, that's what transformation is. And that's what most of us want. Nobody wants to decline in life. We don't want to become worse people.
Right.
We don't want relationships to get worse. We want them to always improve. That's transformation. That's the journey of it. And if we set conditions that help us stay on that journey. So for example, purpose is what we talked about last night at the book launch. It's the foundational first condition. When you lead with purpose and you live a life with purpose and you've identified your purpose, it helps remind you what you care about. So if I have a purpose in my personal life with my family and I have a condition that I set, then I'm going to be intentional every day in living that purpose. It's going to remind me what I really care about. So for example, on my phone, I journal. So this is my personal condition.
Yeah, I love this.
On my phone, I have in the notes tab, I have spiritual impressions and daily journaling. So you can see, I journal every single day, and I open it up and you can see my journal entry there.
Wow.
Right?
So that's how you journal on your notes.
But at the top, I have my own vision right here, which you heard last night.
Yeah.
And so every morning I see that.
Well, read that real quick.
So my vision is to give my heart to God by being an influence for good and spread and catalyzing transformation in the world.
Yeah.
And so I see that every single morning, and I have my big 3, right? God, Kenzie, my kids, and then I have my values. So I see these every single morning. I even have my health, my macros that I'm supposed to hit. So I have all these things that are most important to my purpose and living my best self that I see every single morning, because I have the habit of journaling. I have this habit of seeing this. So that's a condition, habit, ritual, if you will, that I've created in my life, to where I know if I do that, then I'm going to set myself up to have a better day. I'm going to set myself up to be more transformational this day, as opposed to, if I just wake up and start my day, then I'm in response to the day, and I'm in response to the transactions that will come my way and all the things I need to do and blah, blah, blah. And I just check the list, check the boxes, and I go through the motions. And so the point is how do I not be acted upon, and I act upon my day?
Yeah.
And my intention in acting upon my day is, have I set conditions around my life, at home, at work, everywhere, that keep me in this process of becoming.
Yeah.
And I've found, working with multiple leaders and organizations, that most people don't do that. They live transactionally. They wake up and they let the day consume them.
Yeah. Question. So a couple things. Accountability. I want to hear how accountability plays into this, number one. And the second piece is, you have a list of things that you really want to accomplish. This is my core values. This is what I do. What happens, and I think the rest of the audience would want to hear this too, is what if you don't? That, oh man, I missed a day. And I know James, what's the book? I'll think of it here. Atomic Habits. Have you heard that one? So Atomic Habits, he has a quote there. He goes, if you miss a day, okay. If you miss 2 days, you've created a new habit. So how do you, Chris, combat because you're human, right? You ever miss a day?
Oh, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
How do you recover from that?
Well, I have a slogan that I say to myself, to never miss a day, right?
Okay.
But we're not perfect, right?
That's right.
So I combat that by just saying, I'm going to never miss a day. There's some things that I have to be perfect in. For example, I can be and here's the thing is we can't control life sometimes.
That's right.
We can't control some of our circumstances. We certainly can't control other people, but there's so many things that we can control every day, and studying psychology and fortunate enough to have a PhD in psychology now and understanding how the brain works. There's so much that we can control that we don't realize. And for example, things this simple, I can be perfect in the first thing every day to say a prayer. I can be perfect in that. Yeah. And I can never miss a day in doing that, right?
Can't do it.
And I can take 30 minutes and read some scripture and journal.
Yeah.
I can never, that I can be perfect in that. And so it's creating a life where what are the things that I can control and never missing a day controlling those things. Now, we're going to miss a day because we're human, right?
We're human. We're still human.
But are we intentional in saying that these are the things that I'm going to control today, and I can control these, and I can never miss a day, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part of it for me is making sure I say that to myself and set them up to be possible, right?
Yeah.
But you have to obviously be disciplined, and like you say, accountability. You have to be accountable to it, because if you excuse yourself one time, if I let something pass one time, I'm going to let it pass every single time.
That's right.
And the way I do one thing is the way I'm going to do everything else.
That's a great quote. I use that one a lot.
Yeah. So it's like, if I'm going to talk myself out of something once, I know I'm going to be able to do it again.
Yeah.
So
I know. Yeah.
I just have to be careful with what I say to myself. And that goes into sort of affirmation theory and auto-suggestion.
Yeah.
And I have affirmations as well that I read every day. I like to call them auto-suggestions, or what I call them on here, statements of potential reality, right? And I read these every day, and I'll give you one.
Yeah.
When I started to run a healthcare facility, I went into this failing facility. Tony talked about that a little bit, losing a ton of money. And so I knew, okay, I have the skill sets to do this, but there's so much that's weighing on me here as the executive leader of this facility. I have to be intentional about how I'm going to do this, right? Starting with what I say to myself every single morning, right? Because as soon as you get into a healthcare facility and you're running this operation, there are thousands of fires a day that you have to put out. People into your office all the time. Things, it's crazy. So my morning routine was sacred to me. And, I had this statement of potential reality that I read to myself every morning, specifically about, this facility. I said, I will make, named the facility, an extremely profitable and sustainable building. This includes building the best team, creating a lasting culture, and leaving it 10 times better than I found it. And we were able to do that. In 30 days, we actually turned it around. 60 days, it's just getting better. 90 days, even better. And I go back and I credit it to this and these other things that I was reading too. I had, I will not doubt my capabilities, especially as I consecrate my life to God. I will consecrate each day to Him, all the way down to the important decisions that I have to make every single day. And so I had to be intentional about saying these things to myself and, studying auto-suggestion theory and affirmation theory, which sometimes gets a bad rap, but you talk to any of the most successful people in the world, and I'm not just talking financially successful, I'm talking about in their relationships, in their health. They do this. They say things to themselves every single day, and it's not magic, it's science. I mean, you when you say something to yourself every single day, you rewire the subconscious to actually believe it. Yeah. Because the conscious mind has reason, it has logic, and it weighs the pros and cons, and it evaluates, and we need that. Subconscious mind just believes what it believes.
What you told it, yeah.
And we can't access it fully, right? In fact, Carl Jung, one of my favorite writers and thinkers, he said, our dreams are sort of a window into the subconscious mind, and we will never be able to understand it, but we ought to try, because it's so powerful on how we live. Subconsciously, we do so many different things. And if we're constantly feeding our mind negative things and doubt, our subconscious starts to believe it. And so we automate negativity, we automate doubt, and we automate laziness. We automate all these things because we've just told ourselves, or not. We've just let life tell it to us. So getting out in front of it is being intentional in what am I saying to myself every single day? We start to rewire the brain subconsciously to actually live and think and believe in such a way that you operate that way. You wake up with these belief systems. And so, there's something to say about controlling all of those things the best that we can, because there's so much we can't control.
Yeah. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Raising 2 daughters, and one thing I've learned is, what we say verbally is being heard by our ears that obviously go into our subconscious, and we store that. And so, training, helping my girls, and not trying to tell them what to do, but hey, what you just said about yourself, like if I'm out on the golf course and my buddy says, man, I'm such an idiot, it's such a horrible shot. I'm like, his golf game is not going to be well. Like when we talk about that, we talk about, hey, what was your expectation? We come out once a week, we play a round of golf, and we think we're going to have like a shoot 7 under. Well, look, we golf once a week. We don't practice. What were we expecting? So, but really what you speak is really critical. And I hear people do all the time. Would you say that our default as human beings is typically negative? Do we wake up every morning going, maybe the world's overwhelmed us? I think of the verse, it's in 1 John, it says, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the boastful pride of life. You have 3 enemies when you wake up: your flesh, the world, and Satan. And so you have 3 enemies before you wake up. You have no chance unless you're in prayer, reading the Bible, in Scripture, memorizing. But I want to know what's your thoughts, because you're the PhD here, not me. Do people automatically default to negative, where you have to be so intentional about being positive?
That's a great question. And I would say, this is all my opinion and interpretation of things that I've, put in front of me to read or understand, or my own experience or the experiences of others. But I would say yes and no. I would say that the transaction of life, in a spiritual context, the natural man, things of that nature, that's life. Life is full of transactions. Life's full of pressure. And so if you look at it from that lens, I would say maybe the default is, right? But if you look at it from the lens of, well, I come from God and I have light in me, then my natural default would be light, right? And so it really is perspective of, am I going to be in response to life around me, or am I going to be the one that is, like I said, acting upon life? And so it really comes down to perspective. And, from the psychological standpoint, there's a space between stimulus and response. We're stimulated every single day by the weather, by the attitude of the person we wake up next to, by the demands of our kids, by how loud they are, by traffic. There's all these things that stimulate us, good and bad. And then there's our response to it. And psychologically, there's actually a space between stimulus and response. We have a few seconds to get to choose how we're going to respond. But if we've spent a life automating that response, like anytime somebody gives me a bad look, I'm going to be pissed off. Or anytime I hear a loud scream from my child, I'm going to get that, my blood's going to start to boil. Anytime somebody cuts me off on the road, or anytime we start to automate those responses, so we lose those valuable seconds. And so I would say, and when I work with leaders, I say, don't worry about the stimulus, and don't even worry about the response. Worry about the time between those two things. Control the space between the stimulus and response, and live a life where you're constantly thinking about that space. Don't be upset that you're stimulated. Don't be upset that somebody upset you, but don't respond yet, right? Control the response. And you only have a few seconds.
Don't do it,
so
buddy.
Start to control those seconds. And don't worry about the stimulus, and don't worry about the response. Worry about the space between those two things, because that's what's going to define you as a partner, as a parent, as a spouse, as a friend, as a leader, is how you control the space between stimulus and response. So too often, though, we're worried about, all we care about is the stimulus. Well, I'm feeling this way because people did these things to me. I'm having a bad day. Oh, you wouldn't believe what traffic was like. And we just give way to the stimulus, right? And we're blaming our response on the stimulus instead of, I responded because I chose that. And And so that choice that we have in between those two things is critical. And that's really, to me, a core principle of the book too, of the difference between living a transactional life or a transformational one is my choice that I'm making in between the stimulus and the response, and how I'm going to choose to act, think, behave in what goes on around me, because that's what I control.
Yeah. Questions. All right, we're going to go back just a little bit. I want to hear what you love about your wife, how she knows she feels love from you, and then what does it mean to be a dad?
What do I love about my wife? How do I know she feels love from me?
Yeah. Because perception is, we're guys, hey, I've been loving my wife. I hear this from guys all the time. And then all of a sudden, I've done this before. Hey, I'm feeling pretty good. Hey, doing pretty good, honey. She's like, no, you kind of missed the mark today. Huh? Like, we're shocked by that. But so that's the question is, it's twofold. What do you think you're doing, and how's she really responding?
Yeah. What was the first one? Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. How do you show love to your wife?
Okay.
And how do you know that she feels that love?
Yeah. So one of my favorite quotes is from Soren Kierkegaard. You know, he's a father of, I would say, Christian psychology, an amazing thinker. This is in his book, Works of Love. And it goes like this, that love is an expression of the one who is loved. Dude, I'm going to get this wrong. I'm going to read it. How about I read this, buddy? Yeah. Love is an expression of the one who loves, not of the one who is loved. So it's an expression that comes from us, right? Yeah. And so that's what I immediately thought of when you asked the question, is because how do I show love to my wife? I think it comes down to, obviously, I don't want to get into like relationship and theory and whatnot, but you know, because there's a lot of great books and thinkers on this, you know, of love languages and what have you. But we have to know how they want to be loved, but also we have to honor the relationship that this is how I love people, and this is how I know how to love. And that's why people struggle in relationships. They don't know how to love, right? And oftentimes we learn love from how we were brought up and our surroundings. And so to me, love is similar to this journey of transformation. It's always ongoing. So it can't be a fixed thing. Like, this is how love is to me, so I'm always going to love this way. So I've tried to treat loving my wife as part of our journey. And it's a choice that I have to make every single day. And I respond to the dynamics of the day based on the intention that I have to act upon that moment in that time. So it's hard to say that this is how I always express love to my wife and this is how she's always liked to receive it, because our relationship has changed over 14 years. And the way that I express it has changed. The way that she appreciates it, it changes. But I will say the consistent thing that I think is the important point is that, like I mentioned about our faith, it's a choice. Love is a choice every single day, especially with our spouse. It's a choice, and it takes work, and you have to be intentional about it. And if you're not, it will fail. I mean, that's just kind of the truth. It will fail if you're not being intentional about it. And if you're just doing it the way you want to do it, then you might stay in love, but they won't.
Exactly. So, which is probably why divorce happens, you know. There's a book called The 5 Love Languages. Is that any of that what came out of that? Like, you need to figure out how your wife likes to be loved. Like, she likes flowers. She likes words of affirmation. She likes physical touch, whatever it is. Yeah. And so is that part of that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I like that book because it gives, again, a frame to something, but I think it's much more than that, right? Yeah. And anytime that there's, you know, even with my own book, right? Anytime there's a number on anything, we can use that to sometimes weaponize it. You know, like, I'm doing these things and it's not working, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You told me that you like gifts, so I got you a gift. You know, so it's like
transaction. Here's my gift.
Exactly. So there's something that's different going on. In fact, early in our marriage, my wife and I had a little argument, and I went to work.
You guys argued? That's weird.
Yeah, I know, right?
We've never argued. Not my house.
We had an argument that resorted to, you know, tension and some intense voices, you know, from both sides. And I stormed out and went to work, and all day I'm fuming over it, but I knew I needed to fix it. So I'm like, my dad calls me, and I tell him a little bit, and he loves Kenzie, so he's always obviously going to take Kenzie's side. He's like, Chris, you got to get her some flowers or something. Like, you got to get her some flowers.
I love that.
Like, do something like that. So I get some flowers. I come home, and I walk through the door, and she glances over at me briefly, and then goes back to what she's doing. And I'm like, oh, it didn't even work. I throw the flowers on the counter and I storm out. So again, I did that love language.
Come on.
But that's a transaction, right? That's on the surface. And so what was missing was beneath. I was not intentional about it. I didn't really care. I was just going through, I was checking a box.
Yeah.
Like, if I buy this flower for her, she's going to forgive me. It's going to be this great moment. And that's what I was basing it off of. And I was basing it off of simply my own perspective and me.
Yeah.
And I hadn't even gotten into the why behind we were arguing or thought about a sincere apology. I was just checking a box. So that's obvious. So people hear that story and they're like, well, duh, but then we live that way. And we get frustrated when things don't work out. And we say, well, I tried to do this. I said sorry, or I did that. And we get upset about it. It's because, well, I was just going through the motion on the surface. That's why, there was no depth to it.
What's it mean to be a dad?
To me, I'm living the beautiful years right now where I know exactly every day what it means to be a dad, because it's in my face. Yeah. So, I don't know how old your kids are, but, I imagine there'll be a time where I get to lose this sense of responsibility, because I know what it's like I know what it means to be a dad every time I am in their presence. They love running to daddy and they love giving me a big hug. And so I know what it means to provide for them and protect them and play with them and be present with them, because they are in that phase of life where they need everything from me and my wife. So I'm lucky right now where every day I know what it means to be a dad. And maybe when they're older and I don't get to see them as much and they're doing their own thing, my version of being a dad will change and I'll miss these days. But I'm fortunate enough to be in these days right now.
It's just like you said that you were married, you called your dad, having a rough day with your wife, and your dad was still giving you advice. You, as a man, were still calling upon your dad. And so I would tell you, my daughters are 29 and 27. When they became 18, I would prep them like when they're 10. Okay, you're 60% to 18. Yeah. What's that mean, Dad? Well, at 18, you're 100% responsible. Yeah. So you're 60%. You got me. And so fast forward, you're 80%. Hey, you're 18. Guess what? You're 100% responsible for you. Yeah. I'm always here for you if you ever need me. Yeah. But I have to know that you want my help. Yeah. You have to ask for advice. I'm not going to give you unsolicited advice. Have you ever heard the quote, unsolicited advice is criticism? So I was giving advice one time years ago to somebody, and it didn't work out well. Yeah. It's because they weren't asking for it. So I had to learn that lesson the hard way. You wouldn't probably struggle with that? Yeah. Yeah. We love to give our advice, but I just said, hey, girls, you're 18. I always want to be your dad. I always want to be your coach. I'm always here for you. I want to know that you actually want my help. So even if they ask a question, or I always try to preface, are you just kicking tires or do you really want the truth? And so, because I'm not going to waste my word. I'm plenty busy. I don't need to just make you feel good, but do you really want to know what you should do? And usually I'll ask questions. I won't tell them what to do. They already know the answer, by the way. Yeah. Would you agree that people actually know down deep, like you actually know what you should do? Yeah. You just want to actually hear from somebody else, or maybe you're scared to actually make the decision or whatever. Maybe you're being lazy. So anyway.
Yeah, I would say I love that. I love the percentage example you gave, and I agree. And I would say that not only do we oftentimes know the answer to things, but I think there's something deeper going on, in our mind and our heart, psychologically, of we are always looking for affirmation to this sort of idea of ourselves and how we act and what we should do. Should we wait for the sirens?
No, you can keep going because he'll blot it all out.
He'll blot it out. Perfect. Yeah. So we're always looking for affirmation to this idea of who I am, or we're defending threats to it. And so, if I say that I'm a good dad, or a good husband, or a hard worker, I'm going to frame my life to get the affirmation that I am so I can feel good about myself, or I'm going to be defending threats to somebody threatening that idea of myself.
Yeah.
And that's, again, what I would say is a transactional life, because I'm now focused on things outside of my control, externally, over an image that I have of myself that I actually do have control over. But I'm making it based on response, like I said before, stimulus and response versus I get to choose that thing internally. So why I'm saying all of that is I think that influences what you said about we often know the answer to things, but we get lost too much in trying to seek an affirmation or an attaboy on the pat on the back, or we're defending it.
It seems like there's a lot of noise out there.
Exactly.
A lot of different voices, but down deep, if we had just sit for a moment, go for a walk without our phones, just go get alone. Maybe it's, maybe you pray, maybe you meditate, or whatever it is you do, but just be alone is you can actually, within an hour walk, you can actually work out the issue.
Yes.
If you just kind of get alone and be still. And so there's a verse says, Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am Lord." Be still means actively pursue the Lord. It doesn't mean just sit around do nothing, but kind of get quiet, remove the noise.
Yeah.
And that's kind of hard to do sometimes, but
it is. But I agree. There's power to it for sure.
Did we cover the full details of your kids? Tell me, get back to your kids real quick. I know about Eva. And you have two other sons, right?
One son and then another daughter.
Okay. Two daughters. What's your son's name again?
Mateo.
And your daughter?
Tala.
Yeah. She's how old?
She's going to be 6 here soon.
Gotcha. Interesting. Yeah. It's pretty awesome being a dad, though.
Yeah.
There's so many questions I got for you, Chris. I mean, I've got a whole list. A couple, you got a tattoo. You talked about last night. It's not just any tattoo. And I really actually like tattoos. I can remember when my daughter was 21. She's now 29. She's at a church camp for the summer. She calls up. She goes, "Dad, yeah, I'm going to get a tattoo." I'm like, "Awesome. Hey, look, remember, you're 100% responsible. You can kind of do whatever you want. It's up to you. What do you want to do with your life?" But she got a tattoo on her ankle. It was a light bulb. And it was a Bible verse. I am the light of the world. I think it was a Bible verse, but it was the picture of a light bulb. But in the light bulb was also the world with a Bible verse.
Okay.
I'm like, cool. It's meaningful to you.
Yeah. You
own it. So talk to me about your tattoo. What does it mean to you? And all the history of that.
Yeah, I mean, this tattoo, this marking, full of markings on my arm and chest, it means, a great deal to me. And, I had to really grow into its meaning, and to the choice of even getting it, I mean, I was taught to not get tattoos, just from multiple standpoints, like I think modernly, and it's changing because tattooing is more popular, but modernly, especially in the West, I mean, it's kind of seen as rebellious, dirty, so to speak, unprofessional, things of that nature. And, and then there's even sort of Christian, religious beliefs that are shadowing some of that too. And so I was taught those things. And so, I'm not a huge advocate for like, hey, anybody should just go get a tattoo. I actually really feel as though if you're going to mark yourself, it should really have meaning and purpose. Yeah. And so I didn't always believe that though. I wanted one as a young adult, because I was proud of my island heritage, and I'm like, oh, it would be so cool. But I never got one because that was the only drive, right? Because I thought it would be cool, right? And be proud of my culture, but that was it. And so I never did it. And when I decided to get this one, it was because of, I think I was telling you before we were recording, I had a really incredible, almost spiritual experience where I felt a connection to my ancestors. on my dad's side, to where, just put simply, I felt their presence, and that combined with studying indigenous culture was getting me mentally and spiritually to this place where I could connect with who they were and what they believed in, and I was crushed because I realized they are forgotten, and not only by me, like by me and my family, we don't know their names. We can go back a couple of generations, but there's thousands of years before that we know nothing about them. So they were real people like you and I, but we don't know their name. I mean, imagine in 2 generations, buddy, that people forgot who you were.
Yeah.
Right. And in island culture, where you come from is everything, and your ancestors are everything. And so the fact that not only in my specific family tree is that lost to an extent, but the whole Filipino peoples were colonized for 300, 400 years. And so much was lost, and something as sacred and as important as tattooing was seen as dirty and unchristian and all these things. And when they were colonized, they kind of eradicated a lot of tattooing. And so now there's this whole country and peoples that have such an important part of their family history, like their family history. For example, right here, the centipede called the tomaru is all over, and it's really prominent in the Filipino tattooing, tradition. And it's a way to track family history. I mean, literally, we're of one body, right? And on your left side would be your dad's lineage, and your right side would be your mom's. And literally, that's how you tracked how many generations you went back. You knew, right? And so I would be the last one. My kids would have one more. I mean, that was how that was done. And so everything on this had meaning. It's how they tracked their genealogy, how they, portrayed their accomplishments, their things they came over, like what I talked about last night, how they communicated their purpose and what they believed in. And then it was just lost for many years. So there's this sort of revival. Now, in some island cultures, it's never stopped. And Samoa is actually the only culture in the world where it's never stopped. And the word tattoo actually comes from the Samoan word tatau. And they're the only culture in the world that can trace it back to, like, the same families have been tattooing. Yeah. Like there's no break in it, right? It never stopped. They're actually, to my knowledge, the only culture that can actually trace it that way, right? And so there's this incredible power. There was no oral history, there was no written history. It was all oral or through dance, stories, and tattooing. So learning all of that, and then having this experience where I connected with my ancestors in really, I'd say, a supernatural way, is what really influenced me to never want to forget them and never want to forget what they cared about and who they were. And truth be told, that one day when I get to meet them again, that they'll recognize me because of this. And it's a way of showing them honor and respect. And so that's why I got it. And I get to see it every day. And I'm reminded of my own purpose today, but also I'm reminded of where I came from, and I just don't want to forget that. And I want to honor that. So that was really the motivation there. And it was many years in the making. And there's a lot of meaning behind it, and I didn't take it lightly. And it wasn't without resistance, Right. I mean, my mom still hates this. She's probably going to listen to this podcast and even cringe when I'm talking about this whole story, because she, I think, fundamentally still disagrees with how I see that. But you have experiences that you can't deny. Yeah. And to me, they came from a really special, sacred place. So, and I honor and respect my mom, and I'm never going to be upset at her for what she believes, but she still has a hard time with this. Yeah. And in some ways that makes me a little sad, because it's a way that I've found to connect to people, that have been forgotten. And I can't deny a draw that I have towards those ancestors that I have. Yeah. It's a visceral thing. So again, I'm not advocating everybody go out and get a tattoo. Yeah. But I do advocate for people to have meaning and know where they came from, and find a way to connect to where they came from. Yeah. So That was a long way to answer your story.
No,
but
I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Well, and we're going to wrap up here soon. We could probably do this for 2 more hours. I told you we're going to do this for 3, but we'll probably cut it off here shortly. But I mean, we're talking about your book, Beneath the Transaction. That's the name of the book. Maybe we could end on, hearing groundwork. The son came to you, introduced you to his dad, Larry, and that journey of groundwork for 10 years. Question 1 is, what if that never happened? Are you still the same guy? Would you still have gotten your PhD, do you think? Were you on that path? Or did this change your whole life? And then what caused you to write the book?
100% changed my life, and again, the opportunity came because my wife and I were doing our best, as always, to live with intention and let purpose drive our decisions. And, I sacrificed quite a bit. Actually, where I was in a account executive sales role, before I came here, making $200,000 a year. Wow. And doing really well, pretty young, and working for the Arbinger Institute, and I had an uncapped, potential financially, and I was doing well, and so we were comfortable, but we committed to each other, my wife and I, when we got married, that we would give our heart to God, and we would always be. And what that means for us, technical standpoints, people know, because that's like a nice thing to say, like, oh yeah, I give my heart to God. Literally every time we pray together, we say, Lord, we give you our heart. Please guide us where you want us to go. And in turn, that means when opportunities come our way and when things happen, we interpret them as, hold on, is this something that we need to pay attention to? Because we've been actively praying to know how to govern our life. And that's one of those things that we're not always perfect in spirit doing, but we've been pretty perfect in behavior at saying those words. And so it came from that moment. I mean, I met this guy and I just felt this urge to keep talking to him and building a relationship with him beyond my role as his account executive. And that led to conversations, and then that led to them flying me up to Salem and meeting with Larry, and so it 100% changed my life. I think that we would have had a completely different life. Maybe it would have been a great one. Maybe we would have had great lessons along the way. But I think it would have been one with seeking comfort more than seeking discomfort and seeking a journey. And I'm grateful every day that we got on that journey, and that it's taught us to seek discomfort. I think a lot of people spend their life trying to find comfort. Let me just get a job and do these things so I can have a finally comfortable life where I can do what I want. When I found, actually, and I've learned this even from the most financially successful people that I've met, some of these individuals we're talking about, they're not seeking comfort. They're constantly seeking discomfort and doing more. And I would say anybody that is successful where they've had temporal blessings from that would agree that they're not a life trying to seek comfort where they can finally put their feet up. They're doing more. I mean, LT he's getting much older, and he still goes, and it's an incredible example. The guy could be living on an island somewhere, but he still shows up every single day, pushing discomfort, pushing, I got to do more. And so it's taught me a lot, and I'm grateful for those lessons, but I've 100% changed my life from meeting them and being put on this journey. So I wouldn't change it for anything.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So wrap up on what made you write the book, and how can we help people get the book?
Yeah.
Right. Let's talk about that real quick. We want to take you from what, number 10 to number 1?
We're in the top 10 right
top
now,
10? Okay.
But this is an urgent thing, so it's got to happen the next couple of days. Okay. So I don't know when this comes out, but
it comes out in 2 weeks, but we got some video.
Oh, perfect.
We're going to post today to help encourage people to get going.
Yeah. And we already have the moniker of bestseller. We were top 10, but getting number 1, we only want that really because it helps with reach. I mean, when you get number 1, there's more reach there. So But I wrote the book, and this is important in the context. I was asked by we'll just say multi-millionaire to help them make a difference in their community. And the deal was they'd write the check and I did the work. Yeah. And so for 10 years, that's what happened. And, we were flooding resources into it, doctoral dissertation and all these things later, figuring out actually what works. And I think that's important for people to know, because there was no bottom line financial motivation in this. It was all, let's figure out how to create transformational change for the sake of it, and then resources to do it. And so we did that for many years, and the research revealed these 7 things, these 7 conditions. Yeah. And so all this research was done, dissertations done, all of this work's done, and I'm just sitting on it. And I feel this tremendous responsibility of, what do I do with this? I felt, though, before I actually wrote the book, I needed to go and deploy these in another way outside of me just observing and being sort of the guide to these leaders. I needed to do it more, actionably. So we consulted for a couple of years, worked with some organizations doing this work. And then I actually went back into the job market, recruited into healthcare, was a CEO of a couple of different healthcare facilities.
You were?
Yes.
No kidding.
And I deployed these 7 things as my dominant theory of how to create change.
Come on.
And it worked, and it worked quickly. And sometimes I wish I stayed in it longer to make sure that it sustained, longer, but I was surprised by how quickly things worked, at a fundamental level. And so when all of that was done, just this last fall, I stepped away. I felt kind of pulled to other things, and I finished the book. And then I was ironically picked up by fortunately, I'll say, picked up by a publisher, Mason and Vero, and one of the fastest growing publishing houses in the country right now for thought leadership. And they took a chance on me, and book is coming out May 19th. So we've been on that journey of kind of getting the book fully through publication and all of those, everything that goes along with that, which is quite a bit. And so here we are.
Yeah. One last question before we wrap up. Scott Weigel, good friend of mine. I know he was in your groundwork group. I'm trying to honor these guys that gone through your program. Scott said, hey, ask the question, Chris, before you go speak, what is your thought process into what you're going to say? Like, how do you get up there and maybe your rhythm, and walk us through maybe that initial thought process, because you did a great job. I'm watching you. I'm paying attention to see how you began.
Yeah.
Because I think you're a great speaker, by the way. And as a great speaker, or as a speaker, if you don't get the audience right from the beginning, I think you kind of lose them all the way through. For me, I can pick up like, okay, I appreciate that. But man, the great speakers like you captivate from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So I think Scott's question is, how do you do that? What's your thought process?
Yeah, it's a good question. We could spend another hour.
Here we go. Hour number 2.
I'll be brief. I would say, under the surface, I do my best to, internally, I'm praying and I'm doing my best to kind of be present in the moment, right? Outside of myself. And so I do that through some prayer, some breathing and meditation before I actually am needing to flip the switch and beyond. And I'm actually pretty introverted, buddy. So That's so
weird, man.
Yeah, I am not a natural extrovert. I really love doing these things, but it exhausts me, and it takes of an intentional, like I gotta turn on the extroversion right now. But my idea of relaxing and recharging is just being alone by myself, doing my own thing. My wife's opposite. Being around people energizes her.
She was loving it last night.
So
man.
I love being around people, but my natural default is, that's why I say I don't like small talk. I
get to it.
Yeah. So
is this good, by the way, our podcast?
This is great. Yeah. This is great because we go deep. Yep.
I'm the same way. I literally, like you, I feel up alone. I love people, but at the end of the day, I'm exhausted. I need to take a nap.
Exactly. So there's that part of me. So I have to really get in the zone of, okay, I got to give of myself right now. And that's a key part of it too, is I have to give myself. And so I try to get lost in the group and what do they need today to feel something. And so for me in my journey as a speaker for many years now, I've tried to go less from, okay, here's the really cool stories and things that I could share that I think would be really great, to okay, I know what it's like to actually sit in the audience and not be inspired. I know what it's like to sit in the audience and feel something. And so I can't literally understand every single person in the room, but I try my best to be present and be vulnerable. That's a key word, vulnerable, in a way that allows them to feel what they need to feel. And so a key word for me that I'd say to answer Scott's question is vulnerability, from the outset. Now there's technical things like you got to have a good hook, you got to have good tone, you got to have good flexation, all those things, but those could be trained. But what you can't train fully from watching a YouTube video is you got to be willing to be vulnerable. And I heard once from one of my mentors, when you're speaking, you just have to throw yourself like rock stars crowd surfing.
Yeah.
You literally have to metaphorically throw yourself on the audience and trust that they're going to catch you. And you have to build that trust with them immediately of, I'm going to give myself to you and throw myself out to you. And I'm just going to trust that you're all going to catch me today. And you have to do that internally.
Yeah.
And that's hard for a lot of speakers because they just want to be the speaker that sounds really good and it's all about them. Yeah. And I've just had to be really disciplined, and it's not about me right now. Actually, it's
never about you.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that hooked me on the book, and we'll wrap up here, was your story about, you're going to be this new leader in town. LT's, he's backed you, and you go into a meeting and you see a guy you hate. I mean, I think you use those words, hate. Like, we've all walked in, it's like, yeah,
I didn't like the guy. Yeah,
I could probably go do without you. And the first thing we do is like, hey, Joe, Billy, whatever your name is, and we pretend, we fake. But I think your vulnerability in telling that story, because most people don't have the guts to actually say those words. I think that's like, oh, I can put down my guard. You're a real guy. See, vulnerability shows I'm going to lay it all out there. Well, here I am, good or bad. You're going to get all of me. I'm going to be really transparent. Most people aren't willing to risk being transparent, being judged, unloved, or whatever. But really, that's the only way we people get to know us underneath the surface of who we are. And so the whole concept of living beneath, there's so much in the book, man. We're going to wrap up. So as you listen to this podcast, man, I hope you'll go out and grab the book, Beneath the Transaction. It's fantastic. I'll put the link in the show notes and we'll get you going. We're going to learn about this thing called living beneath. A lot of people want to avoid living in the past. To Chris's point, our past is actually be underneath of us. It's part of who we are, good or bad, those lessons that we learn along the way. So I think the book will open your eyes to go from transaction to transformation. And that's what we're all about here. So I just want to leave you with, today's the day of salvation. We believe that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And so if you don't have a relationship with him, today is a good day to do that. And we'll see you next week. Chris, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Before we wrap up, one last word of advice, thought, anything that we left unsaid.
Yeah, it was a key thing I said last night, and I repeat it all the time, which is transformation is caught, not taught.
That's it, man. Transformation is caught, not taught. So with that, we're going to sign off. But thank you very much. Chris, thanks for being here, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.